what's going on, everybody? It's your girl, Deanna Dias, business coach and entrepreneur, aka your business bestie. And today, I am blessed to be in the presence of Mr. Dave Bracey. Everybody, give it up for Mr. Dave Bracey. Woo!
Hello. Am I
Oh,
in?
yeah. Was that your entrance? Is that what that was? Where the camera
Yeah,
moved away from
hello.
you? I like it. I like it. So, all right. Now, like I was explaining to Mr. Bracey earlier, I came across his profile in the Men of Excellence Awards dinner that I went to by the New Pittsburgh Courier. And I just wanted him to come on and share his story and his life and everything about him to the D Nation family. So, um, Day, go ahead and tell everybody a little bit about you, what you do, how you do it, and why you do it.
Um, well, appreciate you having me on your platform. Yeah, Dave Bracey. Uh, I'm a comedian, podcaster, and producer. I started out in comedy about 11 years ago. Started in production about 10 years ago, producing comedy shows that featured a diverse lineup and music and other elements of small businesses to kind of cross promote. And Yeah, we started a podcast shortly after that, around 2014, that connected us with the brewing industry locally, which helped us get our name out to more folks. And then about 6 years ago, started the first Black Brew Festival in America called Barrel and Flow. And That was for the purpose of getting more Black folks along the supply chain in the brewing industry. There's 8,000 plus breweries in the country, and less than 100 are Black owned. Alcohol industry is a $400 billion industry. We constitute 14% of sales, but less than 1% of ownership. So everybody's drinking it, the Hennies and the malt liquors and the Budweisers, but none of us are owning it. So this festival aims to change that, and we are in our 6th year. And recently was voted #1 festival in America by USA Today.
Wow, that is awesome. Woo. Okay, go ahead with your bad self. So now let's go ahead and back it up a little bit. You're a comedian. Why comedy? What made you go into comedy?
I think I've always had a desperate need for attention, and a poor upbringing. So yeah, that's like nobody that's a comedian and gets on stage regularly for the entertainment of others is well rounded. Don't let anybody try to fool you of that. So I also, have a background in social services, 10 years of doing that. And it felt like a way to speak truth to power,
Mm,
like your Richard Pryors, George Carlins, Chris Rocks, things of that nature, right? So I got into it as a way to kind of like, speak my truth, and kind of reach people with what I thought was, a good message, or messages. For folks that I wouldn't normally come into contact with.
okay, yeah, I like it. So you do some motivational stuff on the side too, or you just leave it all in your bits?
The motivational part of it is the alcohol. Nothing gets you motivated like a beer. So, other than that, no, I don't really do many motivational speaks. But like I said, with the production and whatnot, with the podcast, a lot of that is, as you do, right? Like, when you interview people, you are learning new aspects of life that you typically wouldn't be accustomed to, and you're learning, and that's what with the podcast. We spent hundreds of hours interviewing people from different walks of life, and I'm a better person as a result of having heard a lot of that. And then just like with your D Nation and whatnot, like a lot of the folks that we have with our podcast that listen to the podcast, they get exposed to those folks as well, and they are also better off as a result of hearing those conversations. So it's not so much motivational speaking, but a lot of folks are motivated, whether they are the guest on the podcast or the people listening to that, as a result of those conversations.
Yes, absolutely. You ain't lying, because I do have a couple people. They're like, they was looking forward to me starting back up the D Nation podcast, because I was in another country for about a little, almost a year, and I wasn't able to do the things that I used to do before I left. And people were looking forward to it, and they love hearing other people's stories, and I love hearing other people's stories, and that's why I do it. So yeah. Now, how difficult was it for you to start the brew festival, especially here in Pittsburgh area? What challenges did you run into trying to do that?
Pittsburgh is one of the worst places to exist as a black person in America. Statistically, there's plenty of articles. We have the worst percentage of black-owned businesses in the country, less than 1%. In this region, there is no black middle-class neighborhood. There's very little black, capital or political power. And there's not a lot of like black media out there to connect us. So one of the biggest things that I heard this year, so we're going on into our 6th year at the festival, and we have people that fly in from all across the world. We have people come in from the Netherlands and Australia and Africa and Costa Rica and all this, and they come here and they're like, man, I was just like in the cab ride over. I was telling them about this festival I was going to, and nobody knows about it. Like, you got to do more to promote in Pittsburgh. And it's like, well, I mean, I also have a TV show, right? So it's like, it's not so much of a lack of promotion. It's that like Pittsburgh doesn't have strong black connective media in this region. Like, Whammo used to be the thing back in the day, and we no longer really have that, right? We don't have a lot of that to connect us, and even safe spaces for us to go and congregate, and just kind of be grown and sexy and normal without, having to get all dressed up to the nines and, or, hitting up, the hood bars or whatever, right? Like, you go to Cleveland, you go to Philly, you go to, LA or New York or whatever, they have these spaces. We don't have these spaces here in Pittsburgh. So it's been extremely difficult to try to create these safe spaces where black folks can come in, congregate, one, to connect with the local black community, to let them know that we do exist, and two, to create those spaces and protect those spaces so that, they're not getting busted up, by the cops or getting held up by, bullshit, standards or whatever. We get black taxes for venues that are trying to over charge us. We get various offices, with the city or the county or the government level that are trying to deny permits and things of that nature. We have a lot of hatred from just the white community, both locally and nationally, who are throwing hate and shade at the festival. Like, well, why's it got to be about black this, or why's it got to be about black that, right? So it was extremely difficult, and it continues to be difficult to build and maintain the space here in Pittsburgh. But I will say that because of the need for it in Pittsburgh, it is something that could only have happened here and maybe not in, say, an Atlanta or a DC or LA, because they already have these spaces there.
Right.
There's
It
not
doesn't
as
need
much
to
of a
happen
need for
here.
them. Right. I
It
mean,
needs
but
to
it needs
happen
to
here.
happen here. So it has happened here.
Wow, that's deep. I know that it's quite challenging for us to, create those spaces and open up those spaces. I had a friend of mine who went through hell and high water to open his bar, his little lounge or whatever. And now it's not even operating anymore. So Lord knows what happened to that. And a funny story, a friend of mine told me, whenever I do business with somebody who's not a person of color, to bring a white person, sit them in the room while I conduct business. Like,
Yeah,
you know
that
how
mean white
bad
allies. Yeah, I mean, it's like white allies have allowed, me and a lot of folks to progress. Because unfortunately, that's the case, right? It's the black tax is real, and for women, it's the pink tax, right?
Yep.
And so often I've sent, like emails or contracts or whatever to my white friends and say, hey, can you like look at this and tell me if this is something that you would get? And quite often I hear, no, that's not what I heard, or that's not what I was told, or that's not what they were trying to charge me, right? So,
Mm,
in progress, right? And that's the thing about this festival. It's not a segregationist movement. It's not about like, let's just do our own thing over here and like fuck everybody else. What we're trying to
right.
do is build a table for ourselves, right? We build a table for ourselves, and then we invite others to come sit at our table, saying, hey, if you sit at this table, you respect these things. Like you're here, with this or whatever, as opposed to us always trying to get a seat at everybody else's table, right? And in order to
Right.
do that, again, like you do need those white allies. You need to build the table. But once you build the table, you do need to invite other people there, or else you're going to be, the goal isn't to replace the oppressors, right? And that's
Right.
their issue, is that they're all white. They all have this one way of thinking, and as a result, their shit is boring and stale, right? If they want culture, if they want to move forward, they come to us, right? So our goal isn't to replace them and their mistakes. Our goal is to do it better. So we're going to build a table for ourselves, but then we're going to invite other people to it.
Right. And then it's right. It's the awareness as well. I feel like that is you spot on with that one. When is the festival normally?
So we just had our sixth year, August 12th. So it's every year the second weekend in
Mm-hmm.
August. It is the birth of hip hop was the second
Okay.
week in August. So we do that every year.
Okay. Now, from comedy to brewery, I don't think I asked this question. I'm gonna ask it again directly. Why brew? What affiliation do you
Well,
have with beer and things like that?
well, if you look at the funding for entertainment in America, right? Like whether it's baseball, whether it's music, whether it's comedy, whether it's dancing, no matter what kind of art form of entertainment and arts in America, you have two major forms of funding: alcohol and grants. Like those are it, right? Like, you have some, sponsorships, ticket sales, merch, things of that nature, right? But those are all just like extra. Like the things that sell and keep people employed and operating are alcohol sales and grants, right? So as a comedian, as a musician, as a, the Pirates just released a statement saying that their entire baseball roster is funded from concession sales, and the
Mhm.
vast majority of their concession sales
It's
is
alcohol.
alcohol, right? So if a baseball team can support their entire roster off of alcohol sales, why can't we as a black community, do that as well? Especially since we are, one, not only are we consumers, 14% of total sales is black, but we are also the entertainers, right? So as a comedian, I found myself at these bars, at these venues, at these comedy clubs, and I was bringing a bunch of people there, and entertaining, and like at the end of it, they would give me my cut, and I'd be like, how is this all I'm making when I see you over here charging $12 for Budweisers, right? $15 for chicken fingers. Like, I see the place is packed. I see all this money going around, and I'm the last one to get paid, and I get paid the least, right? So, and
Mhm.
that's because you got to look at the supply chain and how many hands is touching that before it gets to you, right? So what we did was we eliminated the middleman and we went straight to the supplier, right? So like now with this brew festival, we don't go to venues and go, hey, can we come in and entertain your folks at this venue, right? We go to the alcohol makers. We go to the people who supply the booze, and we go, hey, people are coming to listen to our comedy. People are coming to hear our music. People are coming to see us dance and do all this. Why don't you make a product that speaks to us, help us promote our brand. We will in turn help you promote your brand. And then we can go to these venues and start to like utilize this collective bargaining and these deals in order to get better payment. So now I don't pay for venues anymore, right? Like if I perform somewhere, it's because the venue sought us out in order to do so. And that's because we eliminated the middleman. And as a result, like we make so much more money as a result of that. And that's where the Brew Festival came in, was just like, let's stop trying to perform at Stage AE and the Improv and, you know, Heinz Field. Let's go to Budweiser. Let's go to Hennessy directly and go like Nas did, right? Like Puff Daddy did, like Jay-Z did. They stopped working with these venues and they went straight to the suppliers and go, hey, Ciroc, right? Like Ace of Spades. Like they started their own brands because that's where the money is. And once you get that money, you no longer need the venues. The venues need you.
Okay. You ain't lying. How many brands do y'all work with?
I mean, we've worked with hundreds of brands over the years. Just this year, we were working with 150
Wow.
breweries, distilleries, wineries. You know, we anything that comes in a barrel, we work with. So that's liquor, wine, beer, all of that, right? So we work with a lot of those brands, and in order to pour at this festival, you either need to be a black-owned brand or you need to do a collaboration with a black artist or entrepreneur, um,
Mm,
you know, for that fest. So that collaboration is typically, say, you know, a black artist like who do we have this year? Nashville, right? Jaquea May is the lead singer there. Byron Nash. They went to Fermata Brewing and they brewed a beer that they like to drink, and then and each of these collaborations feature the artwork of a paid and accredited black artist. So then they went to Marlon Gist, who is a black artist, and he designed the label for that. So he got paid to design the label, and then Nashville was paid to like, you know, promote their brand on the bottles and to perform at Fermata. So I mean, again, you know, eliminating that middleman and getting paid directly for the sales.
wow. Yeah. I can't remember exactly, but I remember seeing a picture of Juvenile. I think he came.
Mm.
Oh, it was a beer. Did you get a chance to
Yeah,
taste
that
it?
was I didn't get a chance to taste it. It came like I was actually in New Orleans when it happened.
Oh,
But
wow.
yeah, but yeah, he did a collaboration with a brewery here recently, and you're starting to see more of that as this catches on, and people start to understand the power of marketing through these beer brands. I think you're going to see a lot more folks, rappers, come out with like their own beers and whatnot. Wale had one, Run the Jewels, you know, 3 6 Mafia. There's a bunch of folks that are just like they're starting to see the value in that. So I think you'll see more.
Yeah. I must rather see a beer than everybody come out with a BK meal, to be honest with you. But
Right?
however you make your coins, that's fine. Real quick, go ahead and tell me because you got me up here talking. We got 18 minutes and 34 seconds. I want you to tell everybody how they can reach you, listen to your jokes and things like that.
You can catch me at Day Bracey, DayBracey, or at Barrel and Flow. That's really it. It's all across the socials. Oh, and
Okay.
I also have a TV show on verylocal.com. It's actually an app as well, the Very Local app. It's called Ed and Day in the Berg. And we go around to various places in Pittsburgh and showcase fun things to do. So if you're looking for something to do in Pittsburgh, check it out.
I think that's definitely needed because I hear a lot of time people saying, "Oh, there's nothing to do here. There's nothing. You're really not looking for anything to do. There's plenty of things to do. Plenty of things to do." So, but I want to thank you so much for taking the time to be on Boss Talk today. Everybody else, if you got any questions for Mr. Dave Bracey, make sure you can contact him or leave it down in the description bar below. This has been your girl, Deanna Diaz, and my wonderful host, Dave Bracey. I hope you guys be blessed. Take care, and I'll see y'all on the next episode of Boss Talk.